And welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're glad you're here with us today. And this week, a topic that I think everybody knows something about, and some people know more about it than others. And I can tell you, when this program started, it was quite a firestorm.
It was indeed. The lottery is what we're talking about. And there was great debate about whether it made sense to do it, great debate about whether it was moral, ethical to do it. Certainly wasn't legal till the people decided to change the law. But it was promoted as the education lottery. And the principal beneficiary of lottery profits after payment of expenses is the education system in Oklahoma, the public education system in Oklahoma. And of course, I think as a lawyer, I can say the jury's still out on just how much benefit will be flowing. We know it's generally a third of the profits goes to education, and that's started already, or is about to start. But what a benefit it will be to education is still not quite known.
We'll have an update on the lottery. How is it doing in Oklahoma? We'll be right back.
For one Oklahoma-based company, success didn't happen overnight. Initially, the days were long. 80-hour weeks, common. As we grew, we wanted to share our success, and the ideals of corporate and civic responsibility found a welcome home. Today, we're the largest investor in the Sooner State, and a source for exciting, new, high-quality jobs. We're Chesapeake Energy, committed to building a better Oklahoma.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The Cox Channel. More sports. More fans. More cheerleaders. More fun. Nobody does more local sports, and nobody does it better.
Hello? Anybody home?
Hi.
Digital Max. Welcome to the neighborhood. Hello, kid. Whoa. I haven't seen a digital tangle like that since... Yeah. You need Cox Connections. With one connection, you get the whole digital enchilada. Kind of like this.
Wow.
What are you waiting for?
Get one connection to all your digital services from Cox.
I think I pulled something.
Your friend in the digital age.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
We are very pleased today to have Jim Scroggins, the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Lottery Commission. Jim is an undergraduate of Southern Illinois University with a degree in business. He got a master's degree in psychology, which I think you'd need to run a lottery, from the University of Illinois. He ran the Pennsylvania Lottery for 4 years and the Missouri Lottery for 13, and is now the Chief Executive Officer, the Executive Director of the Oklahoma Lottery. This is your first visit to The Verdict. I hope not your last. Welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Let's go back and discuss you coming to Oklahoma. How did you hear about the opening for someone to run the lottery here, and what made it appeal to you?
Well, actually, I was talking to the Executive Director of our National Association, and he mentioned it, and I had sort of been talking about making some change, a new challenge, and went ahead and applied. And then once I came down, had a chance to meet the search committee, I was really impressed by them, and I thought if they offer me a job, I'd be glad to take it.
You know, it's one thing to continue a lottery that's already in place, but to start one from scratch, that has to be a whole nother animal.
Well, it is, and everybody said, is it different? Well, it's a lot different. I've taken over a couple of lotteries where there's been in place for a long time. There's always things you think you can do better and change, but starting up, and the real issue is it's on a fast track. Everybody wants to get it up and going, very quickly after it becomes law.
Now, Oklahoma's, from all I know is what I've read, but Oklahoma's got up and running very fast compared to what the traditional timeline is.
We've done it fairly fast here. I mean, I started here on the morning of June the 6th, and we sold our first ticket on the morning of October the 12th, so that's just about 4 months. It's a pretty fast track.
Describe for our viewers the Oklahoma Lottery Commission. I mean, where is its location? What kind of staff does it have? And
our officers are at 3817 North Santa Fe, and right now we've got about 35 staff. We're building staff very slowly, and we report to the board, which is the 7 members that the governor appoints with the advice and consent of the Senate.
How do you communicate with the board?
We have regular meetings. We're meeting every month, and then email, phone calls, just depends on what the issue is. We stay in pretty close touch because I want them to know that we're getting our job done and not to be in a situation where they're out in the public and don't really know how to respond to a question they might get.
Up to this point, how have things been progressing with the lottery?
Oh, they've been going great. I mean, we got off to a great start in October with the start of the instant sales, and then we did Pick 3 and then November, and of course, once we get Powerball up and going, why that'll be another big boost for our sales.
I bet you get a lot of email and phone calls from citizens who have an idea, but they want to change this or improve this, or ways that they can presume to know more than you about running a lottery. What type of feedback do you get in those areas?
Well, I get people, and not often, but I've had probably 4 or 5 inquiries of people saying, here's a game I think you ought to take a look at, and while they sound great, when you start looking at how they would work and what the odds might be, they just wouldn't work.
Insofar as games that are available for a person that wants to buy lottery tickets or play the lottery, are we pretty much where we will stay, or are we going to continue to expand?
We'll continue to expand. And if you look on the instant ticket side, we've got 8 different games out there now, and that'll build over time to be a larger number than that. Pick 3 will be there full time, and then once we do Powerball, that'll be there because that'll be a big draw for a lot of people. And then sometime late spring, we'll take a look at where do we want to go from there.
You could draw up a list of pros and cons about a lottery, and I don't want us to necessarily to get into that here today. But has there been any study that you feel has successfully addressed the issue of what discretionary dollars are people using to buy lottery tickets? In other words, what would they be spending those dollars on if there were no lottery in the state?
I haven't really seen any studies on that, but one of the things, and I always go back to research we did in Missouri. People, one of the great myths is that only the poor play the lottery, and that's always been one of the arguments against it. And if you look at the research we did there and took an income level $12,000 a year and under, which we would all agree is probably near the poverty level, that was the group least likely to play the lottery. Your typical lottery player is blue collar, married, wife, couple of kids, owns his own home, makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000-$45,000 a year.
So do you direct your marketing dollars at that demographic?
We try to be very broad with it. We try not to target any specific group, and with the limited budget we have, it's try to have one size fits all for our advertising.
Well, is there a business plan that shows if a lottery spends X amount of dollars, it will increase the amount of money that's spent? I mean, the more you spend on marketing, is the more people going to put in? And how do you gauge that from a business plan?
The real issue is the more money you can put into prizes from a percentage of the dollar, the more your sales are going to grow, because that's why people play, is to win. And as we cut down our overhead and can put additional prize percentage into the prizes, then sales should grow beyond that.
Are you anticipating cutting your overhead only as a percentage of the total money taken in, or are you really thinking about cutting people that are...
No, we're not talking about cutting any people. It's just as our sales grow, our overhead will become a smaller percentage of the dollar. Therefore, we'll have percentage we can free up and put into prizes.
We're taping this show before Powerball is launched, and presumably it's already in place by the time viewers are watching this show. But in general, describe Powerball and why it's enticing to gamblers.
Well, I think Powerball is one of those that it's everybody's dream to win a lot of money. I mean, they're not going to sign the multi-million-dollar contract with a baseball team or a football team, but for $1, they'll have a chance every Wednesday and Saturday to win a minimum of $15 million. And I think that's the appeal of the game.
Twice a week. Huh?
Twice a week drawing. And if there's no winner, it rolls over and continues to grow beyond the 15 million.
I want to get back to Powerball in the next segment, but let me let me just change the subject for a minute here.
Sure.
Just in rough terms, how many dollars are you taking in monthly on the lottery? Gross dollars.
We take in probably about $3.5 million a week right at this point. This is prior to Powerball.
Has it kind of leveled out?
Yeah, it has leveled out a little bit, and the Christmas, New Year's week was really a down week for us because they both fell on weekends, which are traditionally periods when people will play a lot of lottery.
When, as a community, we were discussing whether or not to have a lottery a few years ago, one of the issues discussed was how many people were already buying lottery tickets in adjacent states. Has there been any studies to show that those other lotteries have suffered because of a lottery in Oklahoma?
Well, I can't really answer that question because we haven't done any studies, but when I was in Missouri, and I got asked this in the legislative process, what was going to happen when Oklahoma had a lottery, and just looking at people that had filed claims for prizes where you have to put name, address, and sort of extrapolating from that, we figured that Missouri would lose $5 to $6 million a year in sales that were Oklahoma people that were going into the Joplin area, for example, and playing the lottery. So there will be people that have played the lottery for a long time in Missouri, Kansas, Texas that will be staying at home playing the lottery now.
We're visiting with Jim Scroggins. You're watching The Verdict. We're discussing the lottery. We'll be right back.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leaving it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for the lead. Wiggins had to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
RSM McGladry. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. RSM McGladry. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
Not sure where you're headed? NATS can help you find your way. It's the National Athletic Testing System. We call it NATS. You'll call it your launching pad to success. NATS will give you a standardized evaluation that will help you measure your performance and give that information to college coaches so they can accurately evaluate your potential. NATS also helps with academic support. Join with the Oklahoma High School Football Coaches Association and head for success at www.nats.us.
You need this one to get satellite HD. This one's your DVR. This one's for local channels. This one's...
What are we supposed to do with all this stuff?
Got you covered. Oh, by the way, that old satellite stuff makes a great end table.
That doesn't look so bad, right, honey?
Don't live in satellite denial. Get the latest entertainment without the hassles. From Cox, your friend in the digital age.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers. We're visiting with Jim Scroggins. He's the executive director of the Oklahoma Lottery. That's right. The correct title?
Right.
Jim, I want to ask you about the number of locations in Oklahoma. Do you have the number of locations you would like to have? Are you looking to increase or decrease?
Well, I'm looking to increase and always like to have more. We probably have about 1,925 right at this moment, and we continue to get applications every week. And I think as Powerball fever sort of catches on, there'll be more and more locations that want to get involved in that.
If someone wants to sell lottery tickets and they have a store, assuming they're doing all the other things right, is there a reason they would be turned down? I mean, could you have 4 on one corner, for instance?
Yeah, you could. The real issue is, and it's right in the law, they have to be clear with the tax commission, they have to have no criminal records, they have to have good credit rating, those types of things. So if they can get over those hurdles and have a business that has sufficient traffic to probably justify the expense, then we'd like to have them.
What's a good location?
We've done very well here, and you will in most states, with the convenience stores, because it's a lot of repeat business, people in and out on a daily, more than once a day basis, and because of that, it's good for our business.
Let me ask you something that just kind of occurred to me. I don't know why. It's kind of scary. But what if someone if I just decided to buy a kiosk, like a ice cream store or something, and just make an arrangement with the shopping center to put it up in their parking lot, assuming they'd let me do it. Could my only business be the sale of lottery tickets?
Well, you have to sell some other product besides lottery. I mean, you might want to.
That's not going to work.
Do some newspapers or cigarettes or something.
What has been your reaction to the revenue that you've received so far? And what is your expectation about the revenue goals for the share of the proceeds that goes to education?
Yeah. Well, as a lottery director, you're never satisfied. You always want to overachieve if you can. We've got very aggressive sales goals for this year to do the $62 million, I think, which is what's been appropriated for the subsequent year. We've got to do about $217, $218 million in gross sales at a 30% profit to make that kind of number. So we've got our work cut out for us, and that's why we're doing Powerball and looking at other games later in the spring.
Now, as Mick indicated, we're taping this before the show is aired, of course, but there will be, or will have been by the time the show airs, a distribution made from lottery to the state.
Right. We by law do our first transfer on January the 15th, again on April the 15th, and then every quarter on the 15th thereafter.
And what's your expectation of how much money will go on the 15th of January?
I was afraid you might ask me that, and I've got people that are doing those numbers because we're supposed to make that transfer this coming Friday. But I don't have the exact number.
Well, will it meet expectations in general?
Yeah, I think it will. And again, I think the bottom line number is, what do we have at June 30th? Did we make the $62 million, regardless of how it is in each individual transfer?
These the news reports that you see about somebody winning, $50 million or $100 million or $200 million, are those Powerball winners the winners that we see?
Typically, or it could be the Mega Millions game, which is offered in 12 other states besides the 30 that are in Powerball.
Well, let's talk about geography a little bit. Of the states contiguous to Oklahoma, are there any states that don't have a lottery?
The only one would be Arkansas.
And I would guess then that the locations on the east border of Oklahoma might get some Arkansas business?
I would think they would get a lot of business. In fact, I can use my experience in Missouri. If you looked at the retail locations along the Arkansas-Missouri border, they did a great lottery business, and I would expect that you'll see the same here in Oklahoma.
What surprises have there been from you come in, taking this job, and as a startup lottery? What have you seen that you weren't expecting?
Just the enthusiasm. I knew that every state that starts a lottery, people are excited about it, but I mean, here, virtually everywhere I went, from opening a bank account to just being in a restaurant and people figuring out where you worked, people were really enthusiastic about the lottery and when was it going to start and when could they play, particularly Powerball.
I know a lot of states have started lotteries, and the District of Columbia has a lottery. Puerto Rico, I think, has a lottery.
Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands.
Have there been states that had a lottery and then decided, we don't want to have a lottery anymore? How do we get rid of our lottery? Is that possible?
Here in the United States there hasn't. I can't say worldwide. I mean, worldwide there's probably another 125 foreign lotteries, but I don't know if any of them have ever gone out of business. I think once they go in business, they pretty much stay in business.
And in the United States, just counting states, there are, 42 states now that have lotteries?
I think 42. I think we became the 42nd, if you count the District of Columbia, 42nd North American lottery.
Go ahead.
How many people are on your staff? How many people work for the lottery?
Right now we're about 35. We're a very small, lean and mean staff, and that has to do with wanting to keep our overhead in check, and we only hire people as we absolutely know we need them.
And all of them office in Oklahoma City?
All of them are here.
Now, do you have any kind of outside independent contractor that assists you with management?
Our vendor, the Scientific Games, that provides the gaming system, actually has the field marketing and sales force on their payroll as opposed to being on ours.
And how many people are involved in that?
I think they probably have somewhere around 70, 75 total at this point.
Now, are they the ones that actually do the printing of the tickets?
They print the tickets, they warehouse the tickets, they provide the computer systems, the field sales marketing force, and we've outsourced an awful lot of that business.
Now, we won't tell anybody, it'll just stay between the three of us, but who has the right numbers? Who has access to those?
Well, ask me after the drawing and I can tell you. That's part of the process. Nobody knows beforehand.
42 lotteries in the United States. Which states have the lotteries that are most admired by the other lotteries? Which ones generate the most money and seem to be most functioning
Well, I
better?
think it varies. If you're going to look at gross revenue and profit, then the bigger lotteries, New York, Massachusetts, some of those. As far as the ones that are well run, I like to think, and I was told that when I was in Missouri, that we had one of the better run lotteries from the standpoint of efficiency and sales for the size. So it can vary. Depends on what your criteria are.
Oklahoma had a choice, I guess, of joining with Powerball or Mega Millions. Is that the other large lottery? And we chose Powerball. Why was that?
Well, we didn't actually choose it. We applied to both games, and Mega Millions is traditionally the 12 bigger lotteries, and had indicated that by having added California, they weren't prepared to add anybody for the next year. And of course, Powerball was glad to have us. And it's probably a better fit for us. I mean, it's the smaller states with comparable populations, comparable sales, gross sales. So it was a better fit for us. And I kind of knew that's where it was going to go, but I wanted to apply to both games anyhow.
Just have a few seconds left. Generally speaking, when lotteries, I assume at the first year, there's a rush to get involved and people tend to buy a lot of lottery tickets. Second year, third year, what's the trend after that?
If you look back 20 years ago, there was always that second year, the sophomore slump. Recently, in startups, it hasn't been that way because people have put a lot of programs and games into play so that you don't have that slump after the first year. And of course, that's one of the things we're working very hard to do here.
Is it as big of the 10th year as it is the third or fourth? I mean, is there a long-term deterioration?
No, it continues to grow annually. In fact, the 13 years I was in Missouri, our gross sales and profit were up every year.
Jim, we're out of time, but thanks for coming on The Verdict.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And good luck.
All right,
Thank
Jim
you.
Scroggins with the Oklahoma Lottery. Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities, parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.
Who's gonna score? Come on, baby. Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
Go,
Satellite go out again?
Yeah, rain. But this is just as fun.
Don't live in satellite denial. Get the reliability you expect from Cox, your friend in the digital age.
The Cox Channel. More sports. More fans. More cheerleaders. More fun. Nobody does more local sports, and nobody does it better.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett, Kent Myers, wrapping up the show on the Oklahoma Lottery.
Yes, I think back, Mick, that you and I did a show on April 8th, 2001, with guests Senator Brad Henry and Representative Forrest Claunch debating whether or not Oklahoma should have a lottery. That was the second show we ever did, and now we've got one.
I think the Senator Long Run won the debate.
He won the debate, and I guess only the people will determine whether it was a correct decision or not, but there's your funding education that way.
Web information on the bottom of your screen now. If you'd like more information about Jim Scroggins or the Oklahoma Lottery, lottery.ok.gov. Some other shows coming up?
Yes, next week we're going to have Speaker of the House Todd Hyatt talking to us about what's going on in the past session, this future session of the Oklahoma Legislature, and his plans for the office of Lieutenant Governor should he be elected.
Should be an interesting political season in 2006.
Yeah, indeed.
I want to remind you about our website, theverdict.tv. You can go to this website, find out more information about Kent and myself, but also you can log on, send us an email, and tell us about a show that you'd like to see here on The Verdict. Do that. Until then, we'll see you next week.
The preceding program was produced by the Production Services Group at Cox Communications, exclusively for the Cox Channel.